Ooh, This is the sound of flowing through the internet. This is the sound of trying to move through the internet intricately and use the pipelines of electricity to find other people in the world that are better suited than people that you might randomly come across on the street. That is what we're trying to accomplish, seeing as we're conceivably trying to leave New York City somewhat soon. And as a result, it's a little bit difficult to be able to take that whimsy of New York City and be able to bring it to other places in the world necessarily. So trying to be able to leverage the concepts and the lessons from being in NYC for this whole time is something we're trying to relay into the future a little bit at a time by conceptualizing a little bit of a lesson of trying to relay the networking process that happens a little bit sometimes semi-organically in New York City, where you can just cross paths with people that are just a little bit intertwined in other things that you happen to be corresponding to or interested in or related to, and be able to transition that into the internet process where we're able to connect with people across the world on a continuous basis, but a semi-random basis at the same time. And we have figured out a way to semi-do this, which is somewhat random, I guess you could say, by using an internet dating website to be able to do that. Oh, yeah. Except, after all, we're not going to actually be using the dating platform to be able to do that necessarily. We're trying to use Bumble to focus on trying to develop connections while we're still here, while we're still in New York City, for the meantime, to be able to rapidly develop aligned connections with people that, in the description, are able to align with a certain aspect of the setting, which has to do with connecting through networking. There's a networking setting on Bumble, and so we're trying to develop as many contacts and connections as possible in the meantime, because we can't do only so many interviews, because there's only so much time in the day to be able to connect with as many people as possible during the time that we're here in New York City. And so therefore we can't do all this, we can't spend all the time on the street by talking to people and hoping that it's the right people necessarily to be able to work with. And so we've been practicing a lot of things, been developing a CRM process and developing some contacts and developing a somewhat of a CRM on WhatsApp to be able to try to start to be able to begin foundational connections for conceptual ad agency type of connections, type of a mindset, type of a scenario, type of a thing that is stemmed from connecting based upon the concept of accountability coaching different people to be able to try to tap into what they want to do in the short and long term, to be able to try to focus on how to be able to resonate with those things in the short and long term, to be able to help them in the longer term sense of the word. We've made actually a solid amount of interesting and peculiar connectivity while present in this city, but it's all coming to an end semi-soon, so it's a little bit difficult shifting into a mindset that is just digital in the future for at least a few months of the year, until maybe returning to NYC next year, New York City next year, and there's a little bit of time in between. There's a little bit of a time gap, so it's like kicking the football field a little bit forward down the field and trying to catch yourself in next year, in this city, in New York City next year, conceivably, and trying to figure out a way to align with sending the CRM and connecting with as many people as possible while we're still here, to be able to do that, to be able to push the football down the field a little bit further into next year, basically, but still trying to align with people digitally so we can still continue to push people to the CRM and WhatsApp to be able to continue to try to add conversations that last for 5 years, 10 years down the line. But it's also not necessarily specifically like an advertising agency, which is typically like paid off of retainers and things like this. We're starting with accountability coaching because really the growth is the main thing that happens. Everything off the back end of the growth is literally an unknown, and there's not any prerequisites or preconceived notions of how we want to be paid and the type of the fee juice which we want to collect. It's all about fee juice in terms of collecting fees that have to do with interpersonal connections and interpersonal connectivity while here present in this city this time around. I've been in this city for many years in the past, but in essence, it's been cool to be able to connect with people this time around in a different way, which has to do more so with the company, which we're trying to support the Digitech and Change for Game Studios in the short and long term by also talking about this podcast to people on the street, but also talking about accountability coaching just a little bit at a time. And we just cracked open the surface a little bit by just doing that this summer, and it really, 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 really has just been the foundational beginning. We're hoping to get a little bit more sophisticated as time goes on. So we're transitioning to Bumble to be able to try to develop foundational connections with people, to try to get them to take actions and see if they'll actually do it, to be able to develop partnerships and like somewhat accountability, but at the same time partnerships where we're adding value, and at the same time trying to develop collaborations where we're at the same time developing conceptual interests and conceptual mindsets that we want to actually conceptually maybe develop products with, and develop a way to be able to try to grow things based on the type of processes and items that they're consistently currently at the current time manufacturing within their current working lives, within their current professional lives, that they're manufacturing with their time, effort, and energy on a day-to-day basis, the type of energy that they're manufacturing on a day-to-day basis, that we're able to conceptually cross over with them and make collaborations in the short and or long term. And that's why we're trying to develop the CRM on WhatsApp to be able to keep those WhatsApp connections hopefully in the short and long term. It's ambitious at the current time. We sort of started about a month ago adding people to WhatsApp and hopefully trying to sustain that process so that hopefully those people specifically are able to be nurtured for the 5-year process, and hopefully in the 10-year process, as opposed to doing a lot of things where certain things end up not fizzling out. In other words, like in the short term, in other words, they don't last necessarily that long. And so it's a difficult but interesting, peculiar interest to be able to try to get people to run through an obstacle course through Bumble. We're trying to ask them to do 5 actions or 4 actions approximately within the first development of the relationships, to be able to see if they will follow through. And that is how we'll try to determine if they go onto the WhatsApp CRM, is if they're able to take a couple of actions that are simplified, like sending an email, sending a text, simple correspondence actions that are simple prerequisites to be able to then try to be able to pre-qualify if people are good, to be able to put on the long-term CRM in the future, to be able to try to develop more collaborations and more collaboration energy, and also add value to their business in the short and long term in a collaborative sense. And that's why we're not a traditional advertising agency in that respect, because it's not really about the money. It's not about developing a retainer. It's more about growth in any way that it's possible. By conceivably collaboration or conceivably adding tools, one way or the other. We just want to try to find growth. We're trying to dig for growth. We're trying to mine for growth in the meantime. And that's really what our process is about in terms of trying to develop the company, develop magic energy, and also at the same time trying to do live performance, music performance, promotions in a live sense, in a hopeful sense down the line, and trying to figure out more so of a home base in Asia, to be able to try to stand steady fast and try to figure out a way to be able to consistently do online content, to be able to consistently try to develop and spit out more so like music on a consistent basis, in hopes that this podcast can also consistently somehow be a source for business music in the short and long term sense. But as we continue to try to unfold as a brand, it takes a lot of collaboration and collaborative energy that is hopefully able to let us through a handful of gates, as we ask a few gatekeepers along the way if they'll be able to help us do that. So we're trying to find people with keys, so that before we get to the gatekeepers, that we're able to know people with keys, in essence, so that we try to pass swiftly through that, so we have a stack of people in line that are resources and resourceful, so we can continue to try to stack resources and then clientele and then business music energy on the back end and the front end of that. And then so hopefully we have this consistent, whimsical, flowing, circular collaborative collaboration energy that kind of stems from an advertising agency sense, but we're also trying to cross an advertising agency with a real estate agency at the same time. So in the meantime, how we need to try to facilitate our connections on Bumble is we're trying to, in essence, develop new products, and it's a collaboration of our Digitech and Change for Game Studios energy and the person on the other end's energy. And it takes time to be able to fish for people and consistently get them to consistently take actions. It starts with becoming friends. It starts with having a friendship at the foundation. And in essence, we also sort of changed gears today and developed a little bit of an interesting product, which happens to be, like I was talking about, making skateboards and interesting floating skateboards and such, by adding one today by making a little floating paper mache actual airplane that's the size of a human-sized paper airplane, in essence, a human-sized paper airplane. So a paper mache airplane that you can actually ride in and glide in is an ambition, to be able to make a paper mache airplane, but it almost would necessitate enough paper so that it would be similar to a fiberglass type of material after all. We could keep this episode super short and try to get into the mojo of keeping episodes super short in the meantime, also going forward, because it's not a bad concept to be able to try to do. We're just really trying to dig into foundations, to be able to find more music collaborations and find excuses to make more music, so that hopefully the music energy is able to reverberate in terms of a brand that hopefully can stem from this punk rock EDM type of music that really is trying to take the forefront of the stage after all, because just the talking in circles and talking about ambitions and such things and also having results to show for them really only comes from the ability to actually follow through with the music game plan, because the music game plan has to do with actually performing live, and performing live has that ability to again develop an in real life foundational conceptual relationship, which is one of the biggest and best marketing tools for music people in the DJ space or in any music playing space, in real life touring and in real life conceptual performance space, to then therefore get to know an audience, and an audience to get to know other people, which is the same way as networking in businesses at the same time. If you do it in person, which is what this summer has been a symbol for, is connecting with people in real life. And I did a little bit of interview work, a little bit of YouTube work, there was interview work, there was in real life, there was also out on the street talking to people, interviewing people, also trying to make music live, a little bit of that, but it's just foundational enough to be able to just kickstart enough energy to hopefully continue to do that down the line. And we're just trying to elevate all of these aspects at the same time, especially live music performance. It's a significant focus, because all of that energy is pinpointed at the forefront of developing the most light from that reflective focal space for that energy to be able to exit from, to be able to to then forecast all of that energy forward into the most philanthropy energy possible around the whole world in a similar fashion that Taylor Swift did, where she impacted like Switzerland's economy when she had enough people that wanted to show up and turn out and take actions based on her touring process and showing an appearance into Switzerland one time, where she influenced and impacted the economy directly based on her presence and process and things of this nature, is something that we aspire to as Dinky Tech and Change for Game Studios as a music brand. So we want to take that energy and be able to shift it into philanthropy energy and make philanthropy actions and make our audience significant contributors to the global society and the global framework of contributing to global philanthropy by taking global philanthropic actions and continuing to reverberate those actions into continuous more so actions that reverberate more actions and are contagious philanthropic energy actions that we're trying to make into a global culture that is spiraling and spawning and spanning in an onward and a perpetual philanthropy energy onward unfolding sense. Yeah. So our digital speed dating collaboration process hopefully can start to take some more traction, and we'll start to add more people to our clientele base and make more and more street art as we take to the streets, but also to the digital streets. We have to take to the digital streets first. Because that energy is able to travel much more fluidly on our digital streets across all streets in the world, because they can travel to all streets in the world. And we need to get into the digital space a little more foundationally. This podcast is, even though it's done every day and we're distributing it and such thing, nobody really knows about it, and that's cool, but that's okay, I guess, in the meantime. And it's okay, I guess you could say, but it's also difficult to sustain when it's a process that you're trying to hold up all on your own, and you're still trying to also develop foundational connections to be able to get people to care enough to be able to participate with you when you have foundational energy that's a little bit peculiar and it's a little bit takes some massaging. And we're starting with this foundational energy, and we're starting to really just try to massage it into different directions so that people develop framework and familiarity in the short and long term, so that they develop familiarity from comments in their comment sections, commenting on people on LinkedIn, commenting on different people on LinkedIn. So there's familiarity. We're trying to do more so in Asia, trying to get more familiar in Asia, so people also reciprocally get more familiar with us. We get more familiar with them in Asia, especially as our sort of focal target for the future, for trying to grow a place that we're trying to foundationally spread and start our to span and expand from a little bit more so in Asia, I guess you could say. So we're just trying to get a little bit prepared to try to go in that direction and do more live music if possible, and at the same time do all these cumulative things, and hope that people out there are listening to be able to continue to propel and perpetually send back energy and reciprocate energy in a positive reciprocal tornado-ish sense, where we're trying to send it around the whole world in philanthropy energy, in the form of philanthropy energy, tornadoes of philanthropy energy all around the world. Tornadoes of philanthropy energy all around the world. Tornadoes of philanthropy energy and business music, philanthropy energy, and spiritual finance, business music, philanthropy energy all around the world. Ooh, in the form of tornadoes, Yeah. Thanks again. Bye, Dinky Tech. Bye, peace. Bye. Dinky Tech, Change for Games. Dinky Tech, Change for Game Studios. Bye, peace. Bye.